The idea of perfection is to be able to juggle everything in my life all at once, everything all at once, but I can't. The concept of having it all, I don't want to be the bearer of bad news, but I don't think that's real. My name is Suhana. I'm the founder and creative director of Maison Cube, a homegrown kidswear label, a mother of 3, wife, daughter, and everything else in between. I started the business after I had my number 2. I wanted something that gave me more flexibility with my time.
My name is Victoria Loke. I am an actor, a writer, and a producer. As with any public figure, there's always a certain pressure to maintain a certain kind of image, even on something as personal as your own social media. And I have to say I struggled with that in the beginning. In the entertainment industry, when you walk into a room, it feels like you're walking into a butcher shop. It's like no holds barred because they feel entitled to commenting about all those things because you're a commodity. And I feel that women, even if you're not in the entertainment industry, experience this to a certain extent, where people feel entitled to comment on the way you look or how you choose to dress. In the beginning, it's hard not to take that personally.
I really don't know why when women give birth, their weight and how they look like always becomes a topic. I think people don't realize it. Maybe somebody says in passing, but it could be quite hurtful. And then as a new mom who's vulnerable to all these new feelings, physically she's recovering, to hear a passing comment like, oh, you haven't lost the weight, I think it can impact them more than it should.
There's this thing called the Kibbe body types where, I think all women kind of fit somewhere on this spectrum, and it really has to do with like proportions. And for me, I lean on the very yin, like feminine side. And that was something that I didn't realize was, actually, that was them trying to play up this masculine feature because androgyny in fashion is like a thing, right? But just years before that, it was about masking your masculine features. It was about making your shoulders seem smaller because broad shoulders are not considered attractive. So it's a constantly shifting goalpost, but the message is still the same. And the message is that you are not good enough and you must somehow twist and contort yourself to fit into what the current ideal of good enough or attractive is.
When women become mothers, they become very vulnerable because it's a lot going on. Emotional changes, our body changes, our hormonal and all those kind of changes, right? So when this gets thrown at you, you're not sure how to react, what to say. And then most times you just internalize it and just, behind closed doors, maybe you complain to your husband or you cry. I'm sure there are a lot of women who cry behind closed doors because of a harmless comment. And then my husband sometimes tells me, you should just let it go, it's not very nice. I say, no, they were the ones who were not being nice in the first place. I'm very stubborn that way and I insist on telling people so. Or imagine you haven't seen me for maybe an entire year. And that's the first thing you say to me. So I get really frustrated with people like this. And I no longer hesitate to share with them that, I don't quite like those words.
I think the hypercritical nature of women towards their own bodies or towards themselves comes from a place of seeking validation from external sources. And that's why I always go on about how we are perfect already, because if you don't have that internal validation for yourself, all that external validation becomes hollow. I don't want to be a part of the system that perpetuates this idea that women have to be a certain way. I might not be able to be neatly fit into any boxes, and that's okay. Unless you have that internal sense of self-worth, that internal locus of your own personal value, then it's never going to change. You're constantly going to be self-critical and then feel the need to expose yourself online or on social media in order to receive that validation. And it's just something that you're just constantly chasing after. I know that nowadays 30-second or like 15-second videos are a thing, right? And I decided, no, that's not who I am. That's not really how I communicate. And that's how I started doing like talkies on my Instagram, where I would talk for like 10 minutes about a topic that I'm very passionate about. And I started getting feedback that people actually like that. They like being able to listen to someone talk to them about an issue that's close to heart for like 10 minutes and not just constantly glue their eyes to the screen, looking at like scroll after scroll after scroll of short videos.
Romanticizing motherhood, I think, is something I've seen since I became a mom myself, because that's when all you start paying attention to such things, right? Parts of it, I'm sure it's true, the emotion of really loving your children unconditionally, or, like, oh, my baby took his first step. Of course, we celebrate these milestones. But I think in doing that, I find that a lot of people also hide the pain that goes behind having a new child, the sleepless nights. When on social media, since Instagram started, a lot of people took to Instagram to document their daily life. But I feel that perhaps it has come to a point where it's very curated. So in response to that, I post very real life situations when my youngest is rolling on the floor in a public place. I tend to overshare a bit of the unglamorous bits of life. And I do get messages like, oh, thank you for sharing the real side of motherhood. Thank you for sharing the your tears and things like that. And I like that. I don't know these people. So to get that kind of comments, I think it's quite heartwarming. There are people who identify with me. There was someone, I don't know her personally, but she said like, oh, I adore your son. I think he's hilarious. I'm like, really? Would you like to adopt him for a day?
There are certain archetypes that, you are instructed to play up. And my first agency, for example, did tell me that they were like, I don't know what category to put you in. I'm like, what do you mean what category to put you in? Like, I don't know what kind of woman you would play, or like what kind of woman persona you would be. And she's like, well, maybe I'm not a persona, maybe I'm an actual human being, right? I think there is an impulse to fit women into these boxes or archetypes because of fear. There's a fear of what a fully empowered woman looks like, or what a fully self-possessed woman looks like. And so rather than acknowledging the fullness of their humanity and the fullness of their personality, it's easier to just turn them into cardboard cutouts of, okay, this is this girl next door, or this is this temptress, or this is this mother figure. And acknowledging the humanity of women can be threatening for people who are not fully embodied and fully empowered in their own humanity.
Becoming a parent, like, you feel like maybe you lose a lot of yourself because your priorities change. You make time for your kids. But I think the essence of who I am, I think, is essentially the same. Sometimes it's also like, how do I find myself again? How do I prioritize myself? I mean, the pressure to keep up, it is there, definitely is. I don't know whether it's an Asian thing. Maybe why some content creators post perfect pictures of kids, because that's a way to escape the daily grind. Maybe daily grind is school drop-offs, screaming, crying, rolling on the floor. And then there's a little world here, which is perfect. Like your kids smiling, have beautiful toys. So I think maybe it's kind of like escapism. In a way, I think you escape to an alternate reality where things are how you envision it. Because life is not like that, right? Like what you want, I mean, there's a lot of curves for you to get there.
I feel like I've been quite fortunate in the sense that I've never really had that pressure coming from my family about getting married or starting a family. And in terms of being an actor, though, of course, like there's still this pervasive mindset that we come with an expiry date. And that once you age out of like this attractive woman bracket, then you're just kind of done for. You only play mom roles. So when women get older, then they become the hag. There are a lot of older actresses who are blazing the trail and becoming producers themselves. who are fighting for better representation of older women in film and in TV. And those are the women that I really, really look up to, actually.
There's nothing wrong with wanting more or being more. I think it encourages you to progress or move to a better place. But I think you also have to be realistic. Like, what can you do? What are the things that may not allow you to do it at that point in time? Or maybe you can have it all, but not everything at the same time, you know? So that's one thing that's very real. From my personal experience, you know, my attention, for example, is very focused on work. It was a time to spend time with my kids. For example, I'm traveling tomorrow and my son has a spelling test next week. If I stayed with him, he comes back with 10 out of 10, you know, because I drill him, you know, we go through it. But I can see that because I'm not available, he maybe gets half of that. It's correlated to the effort I put in, which sometimes frustrates me. I don't know if parents can identify what I say. So sometimes you feel like you're not doing enough for your kids.
It's like a bait and switch almost, you know? You are kind of encouraged to pursue things and pursue better goals for yourself. But then after a while, it becomes like, oh, if you don't get this, then somehow you're not worthy of love and compassion and kindness. And I think that's completely misguided. I believe that we are all internally, just based on who we are all deserving of that love towards ourselves.
The idea of perfection is to be able to juggle everything in my life all at once, everything all at once, but I can't. I find it difficult to admit or accept sometimes, but that's how it is, you know. If I want something, something else has got to give.
It's about time that women have the opportunity to be whatever they want to be, however they want to be, and not have to feel like they need to fit themselves into certain archetypes in order to achieve representation.